Good morning, everyone. Just give you a moment to get situated. Here we are. Tomorrow, the presidential inauguration has us all feeling anxious about the future. The incoming administration's plans for our country and the world are unsettling, and their threats are presented to us as promises. The world is already in a perilous place, and if they deliver on even half of their intentions, these uncertain times may seem like golden days in hindsight. As we navigate these uncharted waters, let us draw strength from the wisdom of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who reminded us that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. In times of turmoil and division, Dr. King's words urge us to remain steadfast in the pursuit of a more perfect union. He taught us that darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. May we embody Dr. King's spirit of love, hope, and resistance as we face the challenges ahead. As Unitarian Universalists, we are committed to standing up for justice, compassion, and equality. We will continue to strive for a world where all people are treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their background or identity. When the road ahead seems uncertain, may we recall Dr. King's assurance that we shall overcome, not because of those in power, but because of our collective power to create change through our voices, actions, and commitment towards justice and compassion. Let us hold on to hope and work together for a brighter future guided by the principles that unite us. Together we can build a more just and loving world for all creatures. May Dr. King's legacy inspire us to remain vigilant and courageous in the face of adversity. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning. My name is Jessica Tenhave Place, and I'm the Director of Multi-Generational Religious Education here at UUSM. Thank you so much for joining us for this special multi-generational service celebrating the life and legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And to start out, we're going to have some of our young people participating, helping to lead worship throughout our service. So first, I'll invite Zia and Quinn to come up and help with the chalice lighting. So Quinn will help us light the chalice, and Zia is going to do a reading by Dr. King.
Returning hate for hate multiplies hate, adding a deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Hate multiplies hate, violence multiplies violence, and toughness multiplies toughness in a descending spiral of destruction. So when Jesus says, "Love your enemies," he is setting forth a profound and ultimately inescapable admonition. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King.
Thank you so much, Zia and Quinn. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Santa Monica, if you're new here or just need to be reminded of all the wonderful things that we stand for, is a contemporary congregation with roots deep in the centuries-old tradition of Unitarian Universalism. And as we will practice in our service today, drawing inspiration from many diverse world religions and secular philosophies. Centered in love, we are an open and affirming congregation celebrating our queer and trans members and friends, working for justice for BIPOC communities and towards full inclusion for those living with disabilities, as well as protecting our precious planet home and all of its inhabitants. As we gather here in the sanctuary and in whatever virtual spaces you may be at home, we recognize that our homes and the homes of most of our members and friends are on the ancestral lands of Indigenous peoples. This is the traditional home of the Keys Nation, the 14 bands of the Chumash tribes, and others. We remember the painful histories of these lands and continue our commitment to justice and sovereignty for Indigenous peoples. I'll turn it back over to Jeff for our announcements.
Good morning again. Okay, we have lunches for brunches, food for our unhoused neighbors after the service from 11 a.m. till noon every Sunday in the patio shade structure. Then we have at noon through 1:30 the youth religious education fun day lunch. That's going to be in Forbes Hall upstairs in room 4 in the mural room. We have Faith in Action, Peace and Social Justice Committee from 12 noon through 1:30 in the patio shade structure. And then we have Mission and Vision Luncheon and Discussion, especially for new members and visitors from 12:15 to 2 p.m. in Forbes Hall, patio shade structure. And you can see all upcoming events on our website or in the email blasts. And now if we could, it's almost time to greet your neighbor, but before doing so, could you please silence your cell phones? I like to be creative, man.
This might happen in detail.
Okay, we're now gonna, oh, wow, Boomy. Good morning, everyone. Please rise in body or in spirit and let's sing our opening hymn. This is 1040, Hush.
Somebody's calling my name.
Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, thus do we covenant with each other. El amor es la esencia de su iglesia. Buscar la verdad es su sacramento y el servicio es la oración. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar el conocimiento en la libertad, servir a la humanidad en comunión. Así es como podemos unos a otros.
I'd like to invite anyone who has a donation to bring forward for the West Side Food Bank to do that at this time in the basket we have up front. We partner with the West Side Food Bank year-round to help people in our community who are experiencing food insecurity. And of course, now with the disastrous fires that we're experiencing, the need is only increased. So thank you so much for the generosity of bringing your donations. As we continue to bring our donations forward, our all ages services offer us an opportunity to do things a little bit differently. See, everyone gets in the habit of what we usually do, so I like to come here and screw things up. So for now, our kids can go back to our kids' corner over here, where you can help us out by decorating some of the signs that we'll be using later in the service. And so if any parents or other grown-ups want to jump in feeling artistic today, please do. And you'll come up here to join me again in just a little bit. But thank you, everyone, for bringing forward your donations. So today, our kids and youth are going to be part of leading the service through different ways of telling stories from people of different faith traditions that inspired, worked together with, or participated in dialogue with the person that we're honoring today, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Well, Dr. King was absolutely a wonderfully gifted leader and person of true moral courage who deserves to be honored on the special holiday our country celebrates in his memory. I know he would agree with me that the civil rights movement and any movement for justice and peace that continues today is never the work of just one person. As Dr. King said, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Reflecting on our values such as pluralism, interdependence, and justice, today we'll listen to the voices of Dr. King, a Baptist minister, Abraham Heschel, a Jewish rabbi and theologian, Mahatma Gandhi, a Hindu pioneer of nonviolent resistance, and Malcolm X, a Muslim leader of a more radical wing of anti-racist resistance in America, and explore what we can learn from their stories that can give us the strength to continue standing up for justice. And so I want to start with inviting Leo and his mom Mirabai to come up and tell us a little bit about Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel.
Hello, everyone. We'll make sure it's tall, Leo, there. We'll make him mid. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel was, like we said, an active Jewish theologian. He was a key participant in the marches from Selma to Montgomery. We learned, I didn't know that, as I'm of a younger generation, that there were actually 3 marches, and he joined on which one, Leo? Do you remember? The third march. And these marches were about protesting segregation, promoting voting rights, and standing against violent suppression by both the Alabama police force, who had murdered civil rights activist Jimmy Lee Johnson, and they had also brutalized many peaceful protesters. I will say too, this was a newer part of the story that Leo and I talked about this year, because I think some of what they maybe teach Leo in school is about the more peaceful aspects of the march, but maybe not always about the more like violent aspects. And another sad loss was that of Unitarian Universalist minister Rabbi James Reeb. And so today, Leo's going to read a quote from Rabbi Heschel, who was on this third march. Here.
Can you lift me up?
Here we go. Oh, we can't. Oh, okay.
There's a switch on the side.
On the side.
That's all right, folks. Let's get this.
Oh, it's so. I didn't know it had so much technology in this.
There you go, boss.
For many of us, the march from Selma to Montgomery was about protest and prayer. Legs are not lips, and walking is not kneeling, and yet our legs utter songs, even without words. Our marching was worship. I felt like my legs were praying.
Thank you so much, Mirabai and Leo. I've always loved this quote from Rabbi Heschel, and I'm always reminded of it when we say in our covenant that service is our prayer. Standing up against injustice is one of the most important acts of service that we can do. Rabbi Heschel understood that by taking part in this march, he was putting himself in danger. Lots of other protesters had been in danger. But as someone whose family members had died in the Holocaust, he understood that standing up against injustice can save many lives, and that his faith called him to pray not just with words, but with his actions. So I want to invite the children up front with me. We can leave our signs for now, but Miss Linda is going to help pass out some instruments. So why don't you grab an instrument?
Opportunity pass. Our very own Ernie Pipes, the great late Ernie Pipes, minister here for many years, marched with King in Washington. We cannot let this moment.
I'm always learning these wonderful things about our congregation. It's such a fantastic heritage for standing up for justice over decades. It's something we should be so proud of. So thank you for sharing that, Cynthia. Yeah, yay. Okay, so I picked out a song that we're gonna do that is a great marching song, right? Keep that in mind for any protesting we might be doing in the coming year. And so Sonder and the choir is gonna lead us. And so this is a song called Sia Hamba, which is a South African song that lots of people use in marches and protests. And so what we're gonna do, I'm gonna lead us. Everyone sing out loud and proud, and I'm going to lead our march of kids around the congregation. All right, let's do it. Thank you so much to all of our singers, all of our marchers. We can go give our instruments back to Miss Linda. Great job, everyone. So now I've lost my place, of course, of too many pages. Okay, yes. So now we're going to sit back down. We can keep working on some of our signs if you want to, decorating our signs for later. And the choir is going to bring us some more beautiful music.
Our anthem for this morning is by Toronto-based composer Aaron Manswell, and it's a setting of one of the great reminders from Dr. King. I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear.
Thank you so much, choir. It was beautiful. And now I want to invite Kieran Pazel forward to share another reading with us.
Mahatma Gandhi was an anti-colonial activist who spent his life leading movements of non-violent resistance, successfully campaigning with his people for the independence of India from British colonial rule. He is widely considered the liberator of India and one of the greatest political and pacifist activists ever to live. Dr. King was greatly influenced by Gandhi and wrote that his philosophy of nonviolent resistance was the only morally and practically sound method open to oppressed people in their struggle for freedom. Gandhi said, "You assist an unjust administration most effectively by obeying its orders and decrees. An evil administration never deserves such allegiance. Allegiance to it means partaking in the evil. A good person will resist an evil system with his whole soul. Disobedience of the laws of an evil state is therefore a duty." Thank you.
We'll just work with this. Thank you, Kieran. That was a great reading. And it reminds me of an article I was reading recently by someone named Daniel Hunter, who studies authoritarian governments. So that's a big word, right? Authoritarian. What does that mean? Well, there's a clue in it, that word authority, right? And so in an authoritarian government, it sacrifices people's personal freedoms for the sake of giving more power to those people who are in authority. And so, of course, we have laws now that exist that limit our personal freedom for the safety and well-being of others and ourselves, like the law that says don't drive a car after you've been drinking alcohol. Yes, that limits your freedom, but it's for your own safety and the safety of others. Whereas these types of laws in authoritarian governments are less about protecting everyone's ability to live in a happy, free society, and more about just shoring up power for the people at the very top. And so when Daniel Hunter studied these authoritarian governments, he learned something pretty wild. He found that many people living under these unfair, unjust systems obey in advance. That means that before a law is even passed, they start doing what they think the people in charge want them to do because they're scared of getting in trouble. And obeying in advance gives these bad governments a lot of power that they don't even really have to work for, because people hand it to them. So, for example, let's say we have a government who is threatened to make laws that will hurt LGBTQ people. Some people might be so scared of that they obey in advance by taking down all of their rainbow flags. Or maybe they do even worse things, like they stop being friends with queer people, or they stop hiring queer people for important jobs, like being a teacher or working in the government. By obeying in advance, they're just handing over power and making it a lot harder for those groups of oppressed people. So instead of giving into fear, we need to follow the example of people like Gandhi and Dr. King and so many activists and justice seekers in our history who disobeyed as loud and proud as they could when it came to unjust laws. And so we're gonna practice that. I wonder if some of my helpers can help bring up our signs that we've been working on beautifying here. So can we all grab a sign and come join me up front on the steps? Thank you. We'll make our way. I know, we're still having too much fun with the art, but we'll have time to keep working on them as we go. So why don't we stand down here on the steps in front, show everybody the signs that we're working on. So these are signs that all represent our values as Unitarian Universalists. So what does your sign say, Zia? Love, that's my favorite one. Love is at the center of all of these other values. All right, so I'll come up front. Good job. I also see things like transformation, generosity, justice, pluralism. What do you have, Sophia? Let me see. Interdependence. Poor Sophia has a sore throat. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to practice standing up for these values that represent what we believe as Unitarian Universalists. So we're going to get ready to get loud, okay? Okay, kids? You got permission to get loud. Yeah. How do you feel about that? All right, I love it. So I'm going to read some statements, and if you do not want to say yes to them, I want to hear a big, loud, no way. Can we practice that? 1, 2, 3. No way. Love it. Okay, so let's try. Will you forget about your immigrant friends and neighbors? No way. Will you stop wearing the kinds of clothes that you like best? No way. Will you stop making art and music that expresses who you are? No way. Will you stop speaking up for the earth? No way. Will you give up on trying to end unjust wars? No way. My LGBTQ friends, will we go back in the closet? No way. Will you forget about our unhoused friends and neighbors? No way. Will you stop telling the truth? No way. Let me hear that one more time. Will you stop telling the truth? No way. All right, let's give ourselves a round of applause. Awesome. There's so much power in this room and so many voices. And if we don't give up, if we stick together, we can stand up for the people that deserve justice, people that represent love and pluralism, who show us how we can transform and be more generous. So I know that we can all stand together and be courageous in these coming days. So thank you so much, friends, for helping me. You can go back, keep working on our art. And now I'm going to ask Kieran to come back up and do another reading for us.
I don't. That works. All right. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a Baptist minister, political philosopher, and an activist who served as a prominent leader in the civil rights movement. In addition to working for the civil rights of black Africans, Dr. King advocated for workers' rights, economic justice, and ending the Vietnam War. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. He died in 1968 at the age of 39, where he was shot by an assassin in Memphis, Tennessee. In a 1957 sermon, Dr. King said, "Jesus looked down at men and said, 'Love your enemies, don't hate anybody. It's not enough to love your friends, because when you start hating anybody, it destroys the very center of your creative response to life and the universe. So love everybody. Hate at any point is a cancer that gnaws away at the very vital center of your life and your existence. It is like eroding acid that eats away the best and the objective center of your life. So Jesus says love, because hate destroys the hater as well as the hated." Thank you.
Thank you, Kieran. As we move into our time of mindfulness, prayer, and meditation, I wanted to acknowledge a specific loss in our community. Eric David Cheseth, the brother of Lars Cheseth, passed away on January 14th. Lars is currently in Denver with their mother, and we're holding their whole family in our hearts in this time of sorrow for them. I also, of course, want to remember those who have died in the wildfires. We know so far of 27 people who lost their lives, and each one of those lives was sacred. While details aren't publicly known yet about all of these victims, we do know that multiple people who died were disabled and couldn't get the assistance they needed to evacuate. This is a reminder that the ongoing disability rights movement is fighting for justice every day in what are really matters of life and death. Let's take a moment of silence for all these lives lost in this disaster, as well as the life of Eric Cheseth. Even in the midst of sorrow, there's joy. This week we're celebrating the birthday of Trish Brassard, coming up on January 22nd. We can also celebrate that this morning, a ceasefire finally took effect in Gaza. We're rejoicing with the people there who are celebrating this ceasefire, but know that our job isn't over in supporting the people of Palestine, and we'll continue to speak out for a permanent and lasting peace throughout Israel and Palestine and justice for the Palestinian people. Thank you. And so for our time of meditation today, I want to take us through a practice that is both very simple and very challenging. It's called loving kindness meditation, and it's a Buddhist practice that I think can help get us closer to what Dr. King was talking about with his Christian value of being able to love our enemies, to not even necessarily benefit our enemies, but to stop the corrosiveness of hate from putting bitterness into our hearts. So I found this a very useful practice. And we can all do it all ages, because you know what? It's based on your hand. So we can all look at all the 5 fingers on our hand. That's a good way to remember how to do this practice. So in this practice, we simply send out a heartfelt wish for the well-being of both ourselves and others. You can really use any phrase that works for you when you're doing this, but today our wish will be expressed by, may you be well, may you be safe, may you be peaceful. So with our first finger, as our thumb that's closest to our heart there, we begin with ourselves. Depending on your life journey, this may be the easiest or the hardest place to start, with love for yourself. But thinking of myself, I send out the heartfelt wish. May I be well, may I be safe, may I be peaceful. For our next finger, we can think about the person or people that are closest to our hearts. Maybe that's your mom or your partner or your best friend. For them, we think, may you be well, may you be safe, may you be peaceful. Thinking of those close loved ones warms up the love in our hearts to extend that wish to people we don't know very well. Maybe that's a coworker you've never really talked to, or someone from your school who's in a different class, or the barista who made your coffee this week. For them, we make that heartfelt wish. May you be well, may you be safe, may you be peaceful. Now things get more challenging. For that 4th finger, we think of the person or people who are not easy for us to love. Maybe it's someone you've had a painful argument with, or a former partner you went through a difficult breakup with, or a relative who won't let go of some of their bigotries. For them, we make the heartfelt wish. May you be well, may you be safe, may you be peaceful. For the last finger, that one farthest from us, and this is where it gets really hard, we'll practice giving loving kindness to our enemies. These are the people that we don't really feel like loving at all. People who are harming the earth, harming our fellow human or non-human beings through greed or hatred or violence. And yet still, for those who we do not want to love, we still make the heartfelt wish. May you be well, may you be safe, may you be peaceful. Amen, and may it be so. I encourage you to bring this practice into your life, trying it just a few times a week maybe, to exercise that muscle of loving kindness. Because I know my muscles of hate and bitterness and anger get a lot of practice just when I look at headlines in the news. And so those things, we're already practicing them. And so to intentionally practice loving kindness, to sort of create balance there, to turn that anger into goodness, into kindness, into service for others, this is a practice that I've found helpful. And now I have mixed up my various papers yet again. So let me see where I am. I'm so sorry. That's why you number them. There you go. Page 4. Thank you. Here we are, page 8. Okay. I want to share a reading from Malcolm X, who was a revolutionary Black activist and Muslim minister who advocated for Black self-love and securing human rights by any means necessary. After separating from the Nation of Islam, Malcolm X made a pilgrimage to Mecca that transformed his views about the possibilities of interracial cooperation. He was assassinated in 1965. In the wake of his passing, Dr. King said, "While we did not always see eye to eye on methods to solve the race problem, I always had a deep affection for Malcolm and felt that he had a great ability to put his finger on the existence and root of the problem." Malcolm's letter from Mecca reads, "During the past 11 days here in the Muslim world, I have eaten from the same plate, drunk from the same glass, and slept on the same rug, while praying to the same God, with fellow Muslims whose eyes were the bluest of blue, whose hair was the blondest of blonde, and whose skin was the whitest of white. And in the words and in the deeds of the white Muslims, I felt the same sincerity that I felt among the Black African Muslims. We were truly all the same, brothers, because their belief in one God had removed the white from their minds, the white from their behavior, and the white from their attitude. I could see from this that perhaps if white Americans could accept the oneness of God, then perhaps, too, they could accept in reality the oneness of man and cease to measure and hinder and harm others in terms of their differences in color." So, I don't know if a lot of you know this, but I grew up Southern Baptist. And in fact, I'm going to do this move. This is always what the preachers would do when they're really ready to get into it, because I'm getting warmed up in this sweater. So, so my father was an ordained Southern Baptist minister, as was his father. And family legend even tells of a great-great-grandfather in the Old West who started preaching with a gun on the pulpit after the church had once been robbed by outlaws. So this heritage runs deep. If you're familiar with them, you probably associate the Southern Baptist denomination with cultural conservatism, as they were major players in the formation of the religious right as a political force in the 1980s and have continued this legacy up to today. But I didn't learn until adulthood, despite going to Southern Baptist churches all of my childhood, that the formation of the Southern Baptist Convention was founded on an older brand of cultural conservatism. In 1845, the Southern Baptists split off from the larger Association of Baptists in America in a disagreement over slavery, and the Southern Baptists were pro-slavery. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was ordained in Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, affiliated with the American Baptist denomination, previously known as the Northern Baptist Convention. So we see that split between the Baptists there. When you observe something perplexing about American culture, like why a church in Atlanta, Georgia would have been labeled Northern Baptist, and my childhood church in Arizona would have been labeled Southern Baptist, in defiance of all geographical logic, the answer is very often because of the legacy of racism. The legacy of racism impacts all aspects of American society. Because of this, it deeply impacts each of us as individuals, our understanding of ourselves and our understanding of the world. Many white liberals may still bristle today at Malcolm X's idea that white Americans need to have the white removed from their minds. Isn't this just reverse racism? Well, no. Malcolm refers to whiteness in terms of white supremacy, white as a racial caste that is defined as separate from and superior to people of color. In this sense of the word, there's nothing white about celebrating the ethnic European cultural heritage that many of us descend from. It's whiteness, in fact, that has robbed many of us of this cultural heritage. Most of my immigrant ancestors were able to assimilate into whiteness, but it came at the cost of abandoning their languages, their specific religious practices, cultural foods, manner of dress, all these ethnic signifiers that showed that they were Irish or German or Italian. And they exchanged this genuine cultural heritage for the privilege of a homogeneous whiteness that is defined not by culture, but by a system of racial oppression. This is the whiteness that Malcolm advocates removing from our minds, a whiteness that has been destructive and spiritually poisoning for European Americans because it fuels the delusion that we are somehow different from and superior to people of color, making us incapable of seeing the truth of our own reality. When our minds are white, we are very ready to believe that people of color are statistically disadvantaged in our society, not because of systemic oppression, but because they are not as smart as, not as moral as, not as hardworking as, fill in the blank, as white people are. Having a white mind is not even the exclusive condition of European Americans, since people of color living in a white supremacist society can sometimes fall prey to these same horrible delusions. This is why Malcolm X preached a message of radical self-love to Black Americans. He wanted them to be liberated from the lies about themselves that white supremacist society taught them to believe. That's why Black power and Black is beautiful are slogans of liberation, while white power is a slogan of racist, white supremacist domination. All too often, Malcolm X, the Black Panther Party, and other Black revolutionaries in our country's history are cast as the bad ones, the scary ones, and are then contrasted with Dr. King and the good, respectable activists of the civil rights movement. In a completely ahistorical way, Dr. King and his colleagues are painted as passive people who achieve their ends because they asked nicely. And really nothing gets me angrier than this evocation of King as one of the good ones, which is of course a horribly racist trope. First of all, Dr. King was thoroughly hated and maligned by the majority of Americans in power for most of his activist career, called a disturber of the peace, an outside agitator, and of course a communist, by all of the same people today who speak so fondly of the fictionalized version of Dr. King they've created in their imaginations. Secondly, while Dr. King was very firm in his commitment to nonviolence, the vocal critics of the bad radical activists almost never share the same commitments. I don't think that someone who believes that it is righteous for a cop or a soldier to carry a gun in defense of white supremacist society has any right to lecture others about the virtues of nonviolence. Lastly, the separation of the good activists like Dr. King from the bad activists like Malcolm X is a tool to destroy solidarity among oppressed people today. This dichotomy is evoked when contemporary activists are silenced and dismissed by people who say they'd be willing to listen if only they would behave in a more civil, peaceful manner, like Dr. King would have wanted them to. To that, I can only respond with this reading from one of Dr. King's sermons, which he gave in the midst of the Montgomery bus boycott. I had a long talk with a man the other day about this bus situation. He discussed the peace being destroyed in the community, the the destroying of good race relations. I agree that there is more tension now, but peace is not merely the absence of this tension, but the presence of justice. And even if we didn't have this tension, we still wouldn't have positive peace. Yes, it is true that if the Negro accepts his place, accepts exploitation and injustice, there will be peace. But it would be a peace boiled down to stagnant complacency, deadening passivity. And if peace means this, I don't want peace. If peace means accepting second-class citizenship, I don't want it. If peace means keeping my mouth shut in the midst of injustice and evil, I don't want it. If peace means being complacently adjusted to a deadening status quo, I don't want peace. If peace means a willingness to be exploited economically, dominated politically, humiliated, and segregated, I don't want peace. We do not honor Dr. King's legacy by canonizing a false and sanitized version of the man that makes our white supremacist society more comfortable. We do not honor him by degrading any and all activists, past and present, who fail to live up to this false image of the ideal peaceful protester. We do not honor him by claiming that his words and deeds are the beginning and end of any viable political strategy for the future. We do not honor him with out-of-context quotations while we continue to ignore his prophetic words against economic exploitation and imperialist wars. We do not honor him by keeping climate justice as a separate issue from racial justice. We honor the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the many, many people who worked before him, who worked alongside him, and who continue this work after his death by pushing harder than ever against forces that would prefer we all stay complacent. We honor him by building solidarity with people, regardless of the letter on their voter registration, regardless of any other differences in political philosophy or identity, uniting in our shared struggle against exploitation and injustice. We honor him by refusing to obey in advance, refusing to allow our minds to be colonized, refusing to be silent, and refusing to stall on the continuing march toward freedom.
As a part of our spiritual practice, we generously share the abundance of our Sunday offering. Half of our offering supports the wonderful work we do within our congregation, such as the work of our pastoral care team, a team that reached out to me last week, a team who I have received thoughtful, caring snail mail from, and I appreciate you all for that. A team that is ready to lend a listening ear and a loving heart to anyone in need of confident spiritual companionship. This kind of pastoral care from our team of volunteer leaders can be requested by emailing pastoralcare@uusm.org or by calling the congregation's office. The other half of our generous offering will support a beloved organization in our community, the Westside Food Bank. The Westside Food Bank was founded in 1981 and provides nutritious foods to 72,000 households, serving 153,000 individuals in need with the help of over 60 member agencies across its service area, collaborating with community coalitions and a multi-sector partnership. They work to strengthen the food assistance network on a large scale. Their mission is to end hunger by ensuring access to free, nutritious food, engaging the community, and advocating for a robust food assistance network. We know them, we love them. Let's continue to support their vital work. Checks are welcome, or if you're new or visiting and don't prefer technology, you may opt to drop something in the offertory bags that will come around shortly. Thank you for all you give monetarily or of yourself to support the life of our congregation and the community beyond our walls. I invite our ushers to come forward. Your offering will now be gratefully received.
Well, the Baptist part of me can't help but say amen, amen to that song. Thank you, choir, and thank you for everyone joining in Voices Together, that inspirational hymn. I don't know if anyone doesn't know, Lift Every Voice is known as the Black national anthem. And it's a beautiful, beautiful song, I think, that really takes us through both the victories and the tragedies of what it's meant to be Black in America, but a song that we can all join in with in solidarity. So I want to invite the kids to come back with their signs to help me with the benediction. So I'm going to need those cue cards there. We can see what other progress has been made in our artistic corner. Thank you. Here you can start here and we'll just have everybody line up so we can see. Thank you so much to all of our young people who helped with readings and marching with us and everything. It's always so special for us all to be together as one community for a whole service on Sundays. We always have so much fun in RE, and plug, we're always looking for volunteers if anyone wants to get more involved, but we're also happy when we can come all be together here as one community. So, for our benediction, may we go forward, courageously marching together in the name of, let's all say it together. Yay! Oh, and equity, yay! Amen, and may it be so. All right, let's go back over here. Thank you, folks. Final plug, lest we walk away from today without knowing that there are actions that we can take in the name of peace and social justice. Speaking of which, our Peace and Social Justice Committee meets every third Sunday. It's open to all. I really encourage you to get involved with all of the efforts that are going on issues of anti-racism, economic justice, so many of the things that Dr. King stood for. There's also going to be another round of Beloved Conversations coming up. We'll put those out in the announcements when that's coming up. And anyone, raise your hand if you're involved with the Peace and Justice Committee or any of the, we also have things going on with the animal right, like there's so much going on in this church. So all I can say is that read the announcements, see what's going on. Our Youth RE group for 6th through 12th grade is going to be getting involved with the struggle for justice for immigrants and refugees. So however old you are, however young you are, there's a place for you to get involved actively in this struggle for justice. So I just wanted to make sure we didn't leave without saying that. So thank you so much for being here.